Welcome to Life of a Founder. Our goal here is to give you an inside look at the experiences of small business owners who have started, operated, and grown a business from the ground up. We strongly believe that there's no better way to learn than by listening to the stories of others. So whether you're already an entrepreneur or dreaming of becoming one in the future, we are sure you'll gain valuable insights from every episode. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the man behind the mic, our host, Matthew Sumter.
And there's this stigma that profit is bad. That was the first thing that we had to get over. And profit, for fun, and anyone could correct me on this, but my understanding is the translation in Spanish is ganancia. So ganancia is bien. Profit is good.
You know who made it.
Hey everyone, welcome to Life of a Founder. I'm Matthew Sumter, and today I'm joined by Will Mears, the founder of Mears Lawn and Landscape. Before we get into our conversation, though, do you have a piece of advice that you'd give our listeners if they're interested in starting a business?
I do. So there's a couple of things that have kind of come up over the years. And the biggest one in the type of business that I'm in is to know your numbers. And it seems so simple and it seems so obvious, but you'd be shocked how many people that are, if you will, contractors or that are in the service industry that think, oh, wow, these are such big numbers. For sure, I'm making money. But the reality is, your margin can be really small depending on what you're doing. And if you're not paying attention to that, you could really get in trouble really quick. Another one, a friend told me a couple years ago, and I've always kind of thought this was interesting, especially since it's towards entrepreneurs, is an entrepreneur could be defined as someone that is, if you will, intelligent, however, crazy or dumb enough to go out and do it on their own, because there is a lack of security. You have to be a little crazy to want to work this many hours. You have to be a little crazy to have no one to stand over you to tell you what to do, which there's pros and cons in that. But at the end of the day, it is very rewarding for a lot of us that do it.
Very nice. So regarding the numbers, you mentioned it's sometimes hard to keep track of that. And I assume as you're growing, that's a big deal too, is that you may start out a certain way, but as the numbers get bigger and bigger, it's probably harder to kind of keep track of that if you're not paying a lot of attention.
Absolutely. And a few years ago, we really started to take a harder look at it. For years, we assumed that we were making money with each individual division of our business. And as the years go on, you continue to track it more and you continue to develop each division and you realize this division is not making money. We need to change things. And it's been really hard for our business. It's been really challenging, but at the same time, it's a necessary evil to be able to make sure you have a profitable business and create good jobs for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your business? Let's start with how old were you when you started the company and how old are you now? So how long have you been doing this?
Sure, absolutely. So I started mowing the neighbor's yard when I was 11. I used the family lawn boy and we were mowing the neighbor's yard. I got paid $20 to mow their front yard and part of their backyard and went really well. I enjoyed it. I like working outside. I always have. I like doing things with my hands. I've always enjoyed that. I don't think I could ever sit behind a desk. I don't know what will ever happen in my career, as none of us truly know. But I can tell you I'll always do something with my hands to some capacity. I did it very seriously when I was in grade school and high school and in college. I went to Johnson County Community College for 2 years. I met my wife in high school. We both went to JUCO, and then we both went to the University of Arkansas. And officially, I've been out of college for 10 years. And started it back up. I had a 2-year sabbatical when I had to finish my degree in Arkansas, and I had some friends. I had my dad took over a few of my yards, and I was able to come back. And I had probably about 50 accounts when I came back, and still really good accounts. They were extremely great clients. I still have a few of them today. I'd say our longest running client is I think she's on her 20th season or 22nd season. We were doing the math earlier this year. So there's a few of them that are around, which at this point, it's more just fun for all of us to kind of continue their relationship. But in general, I would say, officially, I'd say we've been out of college for 10 years, and we've been doing it since then. Our business has grown a lot. We've been very blessed for a lot of different reasons. And I would say overall, the biggest thing has been that we've been able to hire really good people. It took a while, as it does for a lot of entrepreneurs and people that go out and do it on their own, or really just any team. It's taken a long time for us to build up our team, and our team has really come together the last few years, and we're learning a lot every day, as all teams do, but we're doing it. We're chugging along. So it's a fight every day.
Very cool. Well, it's somewhat obvious at this point, but can you tell us what your business is and what kind of services you offer?
Absolutely. So we do pretty much anything that doesn't involve getting up in a tree. So what I mean by that is we mow lawns, we do maintenance, we fertilize, we do irrigation maintenance. We will install new landscapes. We have a landscape division. We'll do like right now we're in September and we're doing fall renovations. That's a really big deal for us. We do snow removal in the winter for commercial accounts. We do really all sorts of things. I think a big thing for us in the last, I'd say 5-7 years has probably been our landscape division. That's really been a big deal. But the reality is it's all intertwined. It's all one big web of everything kind of coming together. It's not necessarily one thing or another. It's
I can imagine anything. When you start mowing for someone that they start asking you if you can do other things as well, and not just snowballs.
Correct. And it's very entertaining to see different people, and there's so many lawn services and really in the country, but definitely in the Midwest and in Kansas City, there's thousands of us, and it's crazy. And the hard thing is to differentiate yourself. And part of that is you want to be the one-stop shop. You want to be the company that they can come to and that they trust. It's not just about, we always preach to our, all of our business, especially our salespeople or anybody that's interfacing with a client. It's not about making a quick sale. It's about developing a relationship long-term so that they can trust you. And it's then when you do say, yes, Mrs. Jones, you need this, then they actually believe you. If I said that every day to every client, eventually your credibility would be nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of think about when you go into the car shop and, to get your oil changed and they tell you the 10 things you need to have done every time you go in. So yeah, I get that. You don't want that happening.
Exactly. Eventually you become just a salesman, when in reality, it's more about you have a client, not a customer. A customer is a one-time transaction. A client is someone that you work with for an extended period of time. So the client needs to understand that we have their best interests at heart. And that's one of our core values. We have 8 core values here at Mears Lawn and Landscape. And that's one of them, is to treat every customer's home as your own. So don't sell them something if they don't need it. It's that simple.
So how have you handled that growth where you went from mowing lawns to adding services? I mean, do you have kind of heads of departments that manage each one, or how do you as the owner manage that growth?
That has definitely been challenging as time goes on. And, I kind of joke with people that if you're willing to go outside and get your hands dirty, then there's so much work, whether you're a painter or a roofer or you build decks or whatever you do. If you go outside, you could create so much revenue for a business. The key is organizing it. And that's something that we experiment. The reality is owning a business, it's one big experiment. I have a few friends that mentor me, and they've been very helpful to help me understand that it is an experiment. I always felt that way. I just never really verbalized that it is an experiment. And every day you just say, okay, let's try this. If it works, great. We'll keep doing it and we'll modify it as time goes on. If not, then you go back to the drawing board and you change it. What's been really interesting over the last couple of years with adding more management is that we're constantly redeveloping what people do. So, for example, we have one of our employees that lives in Des Moines. He was here on site for 3 years, and then he wanted to move home to be closer to his family and eventually start his own family. And he was such an asset to our team that we were like, we have to find a way to keep this individual. And it's worked out really well. And it sounds kind of crazy to say, okay, we're a lawn service in Kansas City, but we have a team member that lives in Des Moines, and he comes down about once a quarter, but it's been super helpful. And it's constantly redefining things like that and kind of thinking outside the box. It doesn't have to be this or that. I mean, it's not that terribly challenging to think outside the box, but often people don't want to.
And how many employees do you currently have, and how's that structured?
Currently, we have 30 employees. We have 8 people in management. We have, let's see here. We have 3 landscape teams that are landscape projects. We have 1 or 2 landscape teams that kind of flex between an irrigation project or a landscape project, or they get moved around. There are floater teams, if you will. We have 3 full-time mowing teams. We have 2 or 3 irrigation technicians. We have 2 or 3 fertilizing technicians, and that's about it. So, I mean, in general, I'd say we run probably, I don't know. Everyone always asks you, like, especially when you're in like high school and college, like how many mowers do you have? How many lawns do you mow? The reality is that's not a number you need to really be paying attention to. Yeah. I couldn't really tell you how many trucks. I mean, I could if I sat here and thought about it for more than 2 minutes, but how many trucks leave our shop every day? That's not necessarily as important as some of the other things that we are measuring, such as just what their daily goals are. Every team has daily goals, whether it's their profit as well as how many times that crew does go out in a month. We need to make sure that they're covering overhead. Obviously, that's a big thing. So structuring it, though, it's a constant change of trying to structure things, and it is a big experiment would probably be my ultimate answer there.
You talked a little bit about your education. Did you do a business degree or did you do something else? And did that help you with kind of transitioning from being a manual laborer to being a business owner?
I have a Bachelor in Science degree in Agricultural and Life Sciences from the University of Arkansas with an emphasis on horticulture. And then I have a minor in agricultural business. Long story short, I knew I was going to run a lawn service from age 16. I decided that, which is a really young age, to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. I had a really, really low-end apartment complex. And when you're 16 and you're starting to make a little bit of money, you think, wow, I'm doing really well. Wow, this is amazing. And I'm glad that happened. I'm glad I went through that phase of my life because that was very important for me to kind of get hooked on it and to get hooked on being an entrepreneur and doing it for myself. I've been very blessed to have a family of entrepreneurs. I'd say especially my own father has been really good at teaching me and my brother how to be entrepreneurs and go out and do it on our own. And all three of us have owned our own businesses over the years. And that's been a really big thing from day one, is that I'd say throughout high school and throughout college is that our family's always promoted going out and working hard and doing it on your own. And it's not about just working for someone else and helping them make their own life better. It's about, you can work for yourself, but that was the stage when I was in high school and college. Now that we've been out of college for several years and we've developed into what I would call an organization as opposed to just a labor or will out in the field. Now it's an organization. So now the key, the last 2 to 4 years, has been how do we make this a proper machine that can generate proper jobs, good careers, and wealth for the people that work in our organization, as well as obviously provide a good product and at the best rate that we can give it to clients. That's been our goal here in the last several years, and that's our goal going forward, and that's our mission statement now. To go off on a very quick tangent, my wife and I are really big fans of The Great Game of Business. If anyone has never read that, I would totally recommend to read that, especially if you're thinking about going out on your own. That is a very interesting story, and it's really pretty simple. If you tell your employees their numbers, then they're going to be engaged in it more for like a million different reasons. And that's something that we've started to do. We believe in open book management. In the last few years, we've had a lot of what we call Know Your Numbers meetings. And we'll have training in the winter with all of our employees, and we have different levels. So we make it relevant for people that are the management and the mid-management. We make it relevant for the laborers. And that's been something that's really helped to develop careers for all of our employees that we're bringing with us throughout this journey. And that's our mission statement over the last few years, is how do we make successful careers for everybody as opposed to just the 1 or 2 people at the top. That's obviously not a good system overall. Yeah,
that's why I was wondering if you did go all the way down the chain, all the way to the lowest level, and gave them some sort of numbers, and you kind of explained that. And is that in hopes that they will be able to move up as well within the company? Do you do a lot of internal promotion, or is that not a place you've gotten to yet?
There's a lot of different steps to it. So I would say at the moment we're on step 3 of infinity. So the reality is taking those first couple steps that were really hard. And there's this stigma that profit is bad. That was the first thing that we had to get over. And profit, for fun, and anyone could correct me on this, but my understanding is the translation in Spanish is ganancia. So ganancia is bien. Profit is good. So a lot of our crews are, half of them I would say are Spanish speaking. And we've had to adapt this so that people understand that you need profit. A business needs profit. Now, that's not our only goal for our business. We want to treat everyone's house as our own. It's not just about profit, but unfortunately, it is a factor that there's this stigma out there that, if Amazon's making all this money, if all these, GM, if everyone's making all this money, then that's so bad. They're so greedy. we need profit. Otherwise, we can't
Right.
buy more trucks. We can't develop more careers for people, and we can't grow as an organization and bring these people that have been with us from day one up to the next level. So we're a few years into it. It's at the moment, it's been a lot of learning for everybody. It's starting to pay dividends for the individuals because they feel more empowered with their day. That's been really nice, and they're able to track their day and see their day. And then that does translate long-term too. And it has for a few employees already of like, if you're doing really well, then clearly you're doing something right. As long as your quality is there, then we can continue to promote you, and everyone can win is the answer. As long as it's a win for the client, the employee, and the business, then everybody wins. Those three things all have to be there.
Yeah, it sounds like you said, you're in a certain step in your transition in the growth of the business. Early on, if we step back, did you have many challenges such as acquiring customers or employee challenges? I mean, what were some of the biggest growth pains in the early days?
We've been very blessed to never have a shortage of clients. Then that could change. The world changes all the time. Obviously, look at the last 3 years. The reality is, though, there's been one big problem that's very obvious, and that's labor. Labor has been very challenging, and early on it was very, very hard. And there were several years where I wanted to quit and thought about it, and I even applied for jobs at other companies, and something told me in my inner voice, just like, you got to keep going. You got to believe in yourself. And my wife and I very firmly believe in, when you are an entrepreneur, for the sake of this podcast, when you are an entrepreneur, you're essentially betting on yourself. You're not betting on the other people, you're betting on yourself. And my wife and I firmly believe that no matter what happens, we won't fail. Now, things could happen that we can't control, but we individually, we will not fail, and we will make sure that we cannot fail. It's not an option. You literally can't. Now, I say that.
Yeah.
It could change, but I feel much stronger in myself than I do in the stock market or anything else. Like, I can control it, similar to the know your numbers for our employees. When you can control your surroundings and control what you're actually doing, you're going to win a lot more times than if it was just someone else that's telling you what to do.
Yeah. Once you develop that confidence, I'm sure that's a very strong force in your favor with keeping the business
It is.
going.
It is. Yeah. So labor was a big thing for us, and eventually you constantly change things, and you're constantly adapting, and you're trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. Very simple things would be pay or time off, or things that are taken for granted in a manual labor industry. Employees have gotten a lot better here in the last few years. We've made a lot of strides in that area. One thing that has been challenging that a lot of our employees didn't see early on was money. Money is obviously a thing, and listening to any book or any podcast or anything like that, obviously when you go out on your own, you have to be able to handle it, because it's a lot. And I can tell you for myself, even in the first few years of being in business, I'd probably say even in the first 6 or 7 years, I was taking out very, very small amount of money, potentially even at like the poverty level. And then you get to a few years where you're actually investing more than you're taking out. Now, our business has always been profitable. We've always made money. We've been very lucky. A lot of things have gone well. At the same time, though, the key, and especially for a business that's heavy with capital meaning the actual equipment itself, as well as just general cash for operating, you're constantly having to reinvest back into the business. And it's very entertaining for me to see other companies that are in this, talking about contractors that are, say, 2 to 10 employees. That's the wall that you hit. That's really hard. And imagine you're on a wall, and you're either going to hold on to that wall and you're going to struggle and you're going to hate every moment of it, or you can crawl over it and you'll be fine and get to the top, or you can fall back down and go back down to being one person. Yeah. That is the analogy that I often use for people that are, say, 3, 4, or 5 trucks, maybe 2 to 10 people in their business. That's the level where you're struggling because you're the lawyer, you're the salesman, you're the accountant, you're the secretary, you're everything. You're also a laborer, and you're dealing with problems. There's so many different things that happen. You have to get over that hump. I was very lucky that I was able to drug my wife into our business. We had our first kid, and that was 5 years ago now. And I drug her into the business, and it was tough for a couple of years. Like, we had to figure out, what both of our roles were going to be, but eventually we figured out that as well. We started bringing on more people that can help us. And in the last few years, I can't describe the difference that the organization is, as well as us financially as a business, as well as my own individual life, that where everyone has been at in the last 2 or 3 years versus where it was like 5 or 6 years ago. It's really hard. And again, I see a lot of people struggle with it. You have to get over that wall. If you don't, you're just going to sit there and be miserable.
So you kind of just made it over that hump in the last few years, and you're really starting to see the payoff from that.
I'd say, yeah. I'd say we're over that first hump. Now, the next hump is trying to develop true careers for a lot of our employees around us. And that involves growing. And I don't want to say, I'm not a big fan of the word scale. I know everybody uses that word, but to me, scaling makes you feel like you're Amazon or something like that. Or like, oh, we're going to scale. We're going to deliver 1 million packages every day. Yeah. That to me, I don't like that. We're going to grow at a healthy rate. And that's where we're at and have been really for the last couple of years. We often, when clients interview us, I'm actually pretty straightforward. And I say, I'm interviewing you too. I don't necessarily need everyone's business like you do when you're early on. You don't need every single job that's thrown at you. But at the same time, of course we want to grow. I mean, that's a natural inclination of a business owner, an entrepreneur. Of course we want to grow. I mean, we have to continue to fulfill our promise to our employees that work for us. So it's a delicate balance though every day to do all that.
Have you been able to bootstrap the finances the whole way, or have you taken on any financing or investors or any other owners, anything like that?
From day one, I've always wanted it to be myself. And that sounds kind of conceited or maybe self-centered, but I've never really wanted to have a business partner due to the fact that partnerships end. That's the short answer. Partnerships end. And obviously a sole proprietorship, an LLC can end as well. The person only lives so long, but partnerships don't last very long from what I see and what I was also taught in business school and what I've just heard from other people. Eventually something happens. It's so often you hear, well, I had a partner, but listen to that. I had a partner. Okay. Yeah. So to me, I technically have a partner, my wife, the love of my life, who is incredibly intelligent and does make so many good decisions every day. But we are married. That's way different than if you went into business with your friend. Yeah. That you're not in it for the long haul, no matter what. And that has made it really beneficial for us to be able to continue to make decisions such as, hey, we're going to invest in this. And no, okay, well, what does this mean for what does this mean for our family? If you have two different partners, that's really challenging because this person might want to go buy a lake house when in reality you need to be putting another $50,000, $100,000 into your business, whatever the number is. Right. So that's challenging. And eventually life goals of the families are going to conflict. Yeah. For my wife and myself, we still continue to agree on what we want to do long term because we see the big picture and we want to make sure that we're developing careers for all of our employees. And I've said that multiple times, but that's our goal. It's not about us making more money. We're fine. We live a I'd say relatively modest lifestyle. We're not into having $80,000 cars or anything like that. We just live normal Midwest lifestyle. At the same time, though, it is a constant reinvestment back into your business. And the last few years, we've had to draw out more from our business. But at the same time, we also have 3 children now. Like we have to do those kind of things to pay for kids. Kids are expensive. Well,
once you get to the point where you can do that, I mean, it's understandable.
You sacrifice for a long time. Yeah. That's definitely part of it.
Well, give us an idea of kind of the revenue at this point, and kind of the revenue trajectory and growth over the years. You said you start out pretty lean. You were taking small withdrawals, and you've kind of increased that over the time. Give us some idea of like maybe profit margin, how much you're really making versus the total revenue.
Our business runs off of, as of last year, we were at a 12% profit margin. We have almost no debt. We were speaking a minute ago about debt, and we have almost no debt. We do own a building and we have one loan on one piece of equipment. It's very small and has 3 more years left. Overall, the return on our investment annually turns out to be about 56%. The annual return on our investment. Obviously, that's not a passive income. I wish it was more passive, but it is not. It's very active. It's been a very heavy investment, and we're continuing to buy more equipment and understand that our biggest asset is labor and time. And we have to continue to, in this industry, people are always coming out with new pieces of equipment that will save you time. And instead of the job taking a day, you can do it in 3/4 of a day. And that doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal, but by the end of the year, that kind of stuff adds up heavily. From a financial standpoint for our business, we've grown at a very steady rate for 10 years running. I'd say it's I'd have to double check that. I don't actually pay that much attention to the revenue. I'm always more concerned about the profit because it is a thing. I mean, you have to know your numbers and you have to make sure you're doing that. It'd be really easy to go out today and double the size of this business. We would cut our profit margin to like a third.
Yeah.
It would be very easy to do so. It's no problem. We're trying to continue to pick up more clients, that it's a good symbiotic relationship where it is a profitable account as well as providing a good service.
Personally, how hands-on are you at this point? I mean, you've got 30 employees, so you would think at some point you're kind of having to step back from getting out there and getting your hands dirty like you said you like to do. So where does that stand right now?
That's been a constant struggle for us, and it's really a me problem. We've hired so many people, and I have so many great people on our team. It is truly a me problem, and I have continued actively. I work with a couple people that mentor me, and for fun, I do mentor a couple other younger kids that I'm trying to help them get through the hump. I believe in paying it forward, and people help me out. I need to help other kids out, just as a side note. But what's fun is you're constantly having to try to find ways, okay, how can I pass something off to someone else? And I hear that from other business owners, and it's really easy to sit here and say it, oh, I'm just going to let go and let someone else do it. It's so hard because the reality is when you start your own business, you do everything. At some point, you will do everything in that business. And yeah, you'll hire people that might do slightly different things, but in general, you've done their position.
And no one does it as well as you, right?
Exactly. Sure. Yeah. But the reality is you need to let go. And that's the biggest thing. I've had so many people tell me, you read it in books, you hear it on podcasts, everywhere. And it's 100% true. It's another thing to live it. And it's very hard, and it's a constant daily struggle. And I actually track every day how many times I delegate something to someone. And I can tell you a lot of days it's not what it should be. It's hard. As far as being hands-on, there are some points in the year where we're really busy and I'll still go out and help with, like today, I'm going to go spray some Roundup on a property. It's pretty rare though that I do those kind of things. Most of the time, my daily role would be to just, make sure that everything in the field is going well, make sure that we're running equipment and everything's staying up to speed, as well as I do still run a lot of landscape projects, and I do still get dirty. I mean, I still come home with dirty jeans and dirty hands every now and then, but it's for an hour. It's not for 10 or 12, which is let's restate that. 12 or 15, like what it would have been, say, 8-10 years ago.
And how do you feel about that? I mean, is that something that you regret because you enjoy being out there, or is that something that you just know comes with the territory?
Overall, I enjoy it. I like where we're at as far as everything. I think the bigger thing is to continue to educate other people on how to pass off running irrigation projects, running landscape projects, because I don't need to be in the trenches every day. At this point in the game, I need to be strategizing. I need to be doing bigger picture things. And we've gotten a lot better at it. I do spend a lot more time on that than I did several years ago. It's a constant battle. I do enjoy getting dirty though. It is kind of fun to go out there and it sounds weird, but play in the mud. Yep. It's kind of fun.
What is your goal overall for this business? What does success look like on a day-to-day basis? How do you measure that?
It's hard to measure day-to-day success, especially when you're looking at long-term, say, what we see for our business in 10 years. I would say our long-term goal, like the ultimate goal for us would be to do an ESOP or employee stock ownership program. I'd love to sell our business to our employees, and that's something that I'd like to do long term. It's a ways away. We still have a lot of things. Our team is still learning. We have a lot of things for me to be able to back out of the business that much where it could run sustainably 100% the way that it is now. I'm hopeful though, and that is the long term goal as far as being able to sell it to our employees. And I'd say as far as a day to day. On a personal level, I'd like to be able to step back a little bit, but still be involved enough that I am not a total absentee owner. I'm not a big fan of being an absentee owner. Just from what I see from other companies, I feel like you lose touch with a lot of your employees. But at the same time, I do have 3 children. I'd like to be able to spend more time with them. And my kids are very little. Our oldest is in kindergarten. So I'd like to be able to spend more time with them and go to their school and go to their activities and activities that they're going to do after school, etc. I want to be able to do those kind of things, but at the same time, I don't want to totally be disconnected with my business. I don't have a desire to be so disconnected that I don't know what's going on to some extent with our business. As far as the day-to-day though, I would say that's on a personal level. From a business standpoint, I want all the employees to have as much growth as possible that they can attain if they want. Not all people want to grow. It's a reality is some people are content with where they're at, but it's really fun when you meet or hire people that really want to grow and really want to, give it their all. And then you want to make sure they have the opportunity to do that. And it's hard. It's easier said than done. I know a lot of big companies have programs, et cetera, but we're a small company in the grand scheme of things. I'd say we're a mid-sized lawn service in Kansas City. And it is hard to create that opportunity all the time because at some point you can only promote people so much. So again, how do you do that? You have to grow so you can create those opportunities.
Well, stepping back to just talking about entrepreneurship in general, what are some of the top skills you think are necessary to be one?
I've always kind of thought that the easiest way to describe it is you have to have grit, and you have to be able to, I don't even want to say have a chip on your shoulder, but I would say that you should have some grit. You're going to have so many days that are challenging. You're going to have so many days where you literally lose a ton of money. You're going to have so many days where you've been yelled at by clients, or you've had employees quit on the job, or you've had something happen where a car is stolen. I've had that. You might have times where you buy a stolen car and then it's confiscated. I had that on Monday. That was fun. So it's a daily thing. You have to have more wins than you have losses, and it's that simple. And often, there's so many different sayings like, how do you run a business? This and that. I would say the biggest thing is don't lose money. It's that simple. Literally just don't lose money. If you lose money, then you're done.
That would be the definition of a successful business, I guess.
One facet of it. Yeah. So, and unfortunately, money is a way to measure yourself. And again, it's not the only measurement. We do employee surveys with our employees, and we're constantly coming up and experiment with more ways to get employees engaged on a daily level, as well as just, big picture things such as know your numbers, such as we do some community projects, et cetera. We do more activities than we did several years ago outside of work, just to try to be more of a family. I mean, it is a family business. My kids are often here. My dogs are in our office. We go to job sites, and it is a family business. I mean, it is kind of fun to keep that atmosphere, and we want to keep that for years, as long as we can, hopefully forever, but as long as we can. And it is kind of challenging to keep that balance because it's not all about money. You want to make sure that people enjoy actually working at your establishment.
Yeah. Well, beyond the next few years, kind of what is the long-term goal? Do you see yourself maybe as sometimes selling, or do you always see it being kind of within your family and maybe just, like you said, being almost an absentee owner or turn over to kids? Or, I mean, how do you think about that?
I can tell you first thing is I'm not going to give our business to our kids, because often people will tease and they'll say like, oh, your kids can have your business. That's not going to happen. They could buy it. That'd be one thing, but I would really rather it be an ESOP. I think an ESOP would be a better opportunity. But as far as long term, I mean, we've talked many times about like, all right, what's the 5-year plan? What's the 10-year plan? Potentially starting another location. It might even be inside of Kansas City. We're based in Johnson County. Maybe you have one up north. We've been slowly getting more and more clients up north. We do a little bit of work in Lawrence. Maybe we start one for Lawrence that services Lawrence and Topeka or something like that. It's challenging because you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. I mean, you have to have goals, and obviously, people say like write it down and make sure you're actually doing things that get there. And we do all those things, but it's challenging because you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. It is a constant daily thing to make sure that you're developing careers, and developing processes has been a really big thing for us. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. If I had to sum it up, I'd probably say having a second location, having more opportunities for management, and thus more people that can work underneath them, so that we can, again, develop better careers.
Very nice. All right. Well, is there any other areas you wanted to go over, or anything you wanted to add?
One really interesting way that we were able to grow early on is that we were able to purchase high school kids and college kids that had a good list of lawns that they had a good relationship with, and we essentially bought out their business. That would be a really good way for someone to build their business if they were trying to get over that hump. I was describing earlier about the being on that wall, and you're 2 to 10 people, or you're maybe 3 or 4 trucks, and you're like, all right, I got to get over this wall. Well, the main way to do that is to grow your revenue. A really easy way to do that is to find these firefighters or high school kids or college kids that have a handful of lawns, and they're only mowing. Typically, they're only mowing lawns. And what you do is you say, okay, I'm going to buy your list of clients essentially for 1 month of revenue. So if you mow a $50 lawn 4 times in a month, it's $200 account. And you have to structure it to where you obviously don't give them all the money up front. You parcel it out over time, and You're able to make it to where there has to be some type of issue with retention, meaning if a client leaves due to economic reasons or they move to New York or California, then it's not necessarily on you as the purchaser of their business. That's been a really easy way to grow overall. And I did that early on with probably, I'd say 5 or 6 guys, and that worked out pretty well. Another really interesting thing that I firmly believe in is this thing called depreciation. We very closely pay attention to our depreciation because everyone thinks, oh, you can write something off, it's free. No, that's definitely not the way that works. And that makes it to where you have to pay attention to what's actually going on as far as what equipment you're buying. A really good example of how we manage this would be we go out and we buy used vehicles, but we don't look just in Kansas City. And you can still buy very lightly used vehicles. The lowest mileage vehicle I've ever bought had 1,398 miles on it. And it was 4 years old. And a man had literally driven it from Minnesota to Florida and back. And that was it.
Wow.
And I was able to purchase that vehicle for maybe 2/3 of what it would have been if it was new.
Yeah.
It's essentially a new vehicle. And that has been a really big way, but I wouldn't have found that. It was in Minnesota. I would not have found that if I only looked in my area. So when I look for vehicles or I look for equipment, think outside the box, look in areas that are further away. For me to pick up a flight to Minneapolis for a couple $100 and drive home in one day, that's no big deal. And it saves a lot of money, and that can be passed on to your clients. It's not all about us just for numbers. It's about passing your numbers on to your clients and being able to keep your overhead down. Depreciation is a very nasty thing that a lot of people ignore, but it's a really big deal.
Let's step a little bit away from the business right now. Do you have enough free time to even consider other business ideas? Are those the kind of things that pop into your head as an entrepreneur, things that you would like to do or have ideas to do, but you just don't have the time?
I currently work too many hours to be able to do anything like that. I say I'd still work probably anywhere from 50 to 80 hours a week. I'd say for majority of this year, it's probably been closer to 70 or 80. And it's really hard to have a family and do that. We are actively working on that, meaning mainly myself. I am doing things to make that better every day. It has gotten better. It is a constant battle, as I've mentioned. We do have aspirations to have other businesses. Even within our own business, we've started things such as we have a robotic mowing division.
Nice,
The robotic mowing division is, I am very optimistic that it's going to be the way of the future. I mean, labor is increasing, and mowing is not getting any cheaper. It's such a simple thing, but it's like a Roomba for your lawn. You throw it out there and it does its thing and it bounces back and forth like a ping pong ball. So it just kind of does its thing. But that's been something that we've been doing internally. We do have aspirations to own other businesses, and we speak about this openly with our employees. We've even discussed maybe some of them take over other businesses if we bought some. We'd like to grow a little bit more laterally. We'd like to have, say, potentially like own some of our suppliers, or maybe start a supply company of some kind or something like that. And that's kind of challenging because, you don't want to step on the toes of people you have really good relationships with. But at the same time, it would make sense to be able to integrate things into your company that you're already using.
Some of that vertical integration.
Correct.
I was just listening to a podcast recently about Ford and how he did that. He started developing the suppliers that he needed so that he wasn't relying on anyone.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And we've experimented with a few things, and we're going to continue to experiment. The key is you're never stagnant. You can't be stagnant no matter what happens. And that is one other piece of advice for anyone that wants to be an entrepreneur. Don't be stagnant. Never be content. And I know that's kind of dangerous to say that in the world that we live in, because it's okay to be content with your own personal life. But from a business standpoint, you have to be continually evolving. And sometimes the thoughts are radical. My wife and I live by the rule, is even talking to a friend a few minutes ago on the phone, of what if we added installing gutters or something like that? We currently clean gutters. What if we installed gutters? I don't know if that's something I'd ever really want to get into, but at the same time, let's hear them out. Let's talk about it. Let's think about these things. Don't be closed-minded and constantly be thinking of ways to change your business. Because the thing is, if you don't, someone else is going to. And then you're going to fall behind. And then all of a sudden, you're at the end of the pack.
When you're not working on your business, it sounds like you don't have a lot of free time. But what do you do for fun? What do you enjoy outside of work?
My wife and I go camping with our kids, which is a lot of fun. We do make time for that. We go... this year we haven't gone quite as much, but I'd say traditionally we'll go anywhere from 6 to 8 times a year. We'll go camping for even just 2-3 days, just local lakes and whatnot, and campsites around town. We have a few horses on our property. We live on a few acres. We have a quarter horse, a pony, and then a really small pony. And then we have just stuff like that. We live on a few acres, so we like to do
Nice.
I do some hunting and things like that. The very few times that I do go out on my own and do that kind of stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you listened to the last podcast, you already got a preview of this, but we're going to do some rapid fire questions. So first thing that pops into your mind, what's your favorite month?
June,
Favorite vacation destination?
San Diego.
4-letter word that begins with B. Beer's taken.
Oh man. Yeah, I was gonna say beer. Yeah, I don't know on that one. Bottle. That's not four.
Yeah, that one's a hard one.
I'm going with beer.
All right,
Yeah.
beer. And
Whiskey. There's
whiskey.
your answer. Whiskey.
All right. Yeah, bourbon. No, okay. A night out or a night in?
A night out.
And do aliens exist?
Oh, absolutely not. That's silly. Neither do ghosts. Anyone that thinks otherwise is just wasting their time.
All right. Well, that was awesome. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. How can our listeners get in touch with you or find out more about your company?
They can visit our website. We have a wonderful website that my wife has done a great job with. We do have a YouTube channel. We're on Instagram and we're on Facebook, and we do have some really funny videos. If I may, just to kind of set the tone, if anyone hasn't ever heard of us, I would suggest to go to December of 2020, and you'll find a very funny video of a water feature that I would recommend that you watch. That will set the tone that we have here in our business of how serious we are.
All right. We'll have to check that out. What's your website? Mears, M-A-R-S?
Mearslawn.com.
Lawn.com. Okay. All right. Well, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Life of a Founder. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any of our upcoming episodes. And if you have any friends or family members who would enjoy the show, please share the link with them. We truly believe that small businesses are the lifeblood of our communities. So we encourage you to take that first step and start your journey toward business ownership.